You can't always get what you want. Now, I know y'all may think it's just a Rolling Stones song, but it's also what leaders on both sides of the aisle are telling their voters this afternoon. Late last night, congressional Republicans reached a deal in principle with the White House that will raise the debt ceiling just days before the United States was expected to default on its debt. And after all of this fanfare, we still do not have text of a bill. President Biden, though, says he is confident the deal will get to his desk. Here's what we know about the agreement so far, folks. In exchange for raising the debt ceiling until 2025, it keeps domestic spending at its current 2023 levels while allowing for increases in defense spending. It also widens the work requirement age for adults receiving SNAP benefits from 50 to 54, exempting veterans and unhoused people. And it claws back unspent COVID funds and scales back expanded funding for the IRS. Now, House Democrats have yet to be briefed on this, but they're expected to receive a briefing by the Biden administration in less than an hour at 5 p.m. Eastern. But they're already speaking out about the deal.
President Biden has delivered a result that avoids a catastrophic default.
In these kinds of the negotiations, nobody gets all of what they want. I'm very comfortable that we can get to a good place on both sides of the aisle.
It is all because Republicans said that they wanted to cut the deficit. And let's be clear that what they got from this was not that. They may have gotten other things. I'm not happy with some of the things I'm hearing about, but they are not cutting the deficit.
After defending the deal in a call with his caucus last night, here is what Speaker Kevin McCarthy told our reporters about the deal this morning.
We know at any time when you sit and negotiate within two parties that you got to work with both sides of the aisle. So it's not 100% what everybody wants, but when you look, the country is going to be stronger. This is going to be transformational, where our Congress is literally going to vote to spend less money this year than we spent last year.
The Speaker still has to sell the deal to House Republicans, and some members have made it abundantly clear they are not on board, saying it still adds to the debt and doesn't retain enough of the debt on arrival debt ceiling extension passed by the House last month. And while bipartisan efforts might be enough to pass the bill, remember, the House rules that McCarthy agreed to in exchange for the speakership seemed so long ago. But those rules allow any single member to force a floor vote to kick him out of the speaker's chair. McCarthy said this morning that he is not worried at all about that prospect, but in the chaos that is this caucus, nothing is off the table. Those House rules, they also require a 3-day waiting period for members to read new legislation before it goes to the floor, meaning the vote that could finally put this entire saga to an end, well, we can expect it no earlier than Wednesday. Until then, let's have a chat. I want to bring in Democratic Congresswoman Sheila Sherfelis McCormick of Florida. Welcome to you, Congresswoman. My first question to you, have you spoken with congressional leadership? Do you know any more than what I just detailed here in the open of the show?
We've had brief conversations, especially when it comes to Texas, but we're going to have our meeting today at 5.
And what do you expect to hear from in this meeting? And just the tone and the tenor here, because I have heard from a number of members between last night and this morning that they were disappointed and unhappy that they're waiting until 5 o'clock for a briefing and disappointed if what they're hearing is coming out. So do you share those sentiments? And
I do. I just want to make sure that we have a bill that's not going to hurt the American people. We fought long and hard for the the Inflation Reduction Act. And the reason and the circumstances we did still exist. We still have an issue with inflation. We still have an issue with housing. We have Americans who are still suffering. So unless something has changed that we don't know of, I hope that this negotiation is really protecting the American people.
So what do you need to hear today to support the measure?
SNAP benefits. That's something that we're very concerned about. A lot of our families are going hungry. It still bewilders me how we're one of the wealthiest nations in the whole world, and we have so many people who are dealing with starvation. If we're not prioritizing SNAP and making sure that every family can actually have the food they need to survive, then I think there's something wrong with what we're doing here in Congress.
So let's talk about SNAP. And currently, aside from this bill, the rules on SNAP and folks at home, that's food stamps, for lack of a better term, individuals aged 18 or over, and I'm reading the current rules, and under 50 are limited to 3 months of SNAP benefits every 3 years unless they are working or in a worker training program at least 20 hours a week. So there are currently work requirements to receive SNAP benefits if you are between the ages of 18 and 50. What I am just reading the tea leaves here from what the White House and Kevin McCarthy have said, that age is now being raised to 54.
Correct.
And you are exempt if you are a veteran, if you are an unhoused person. And last night, members were telling me if you were previously in the foster care system, you were also exempt. But now that means 54, you have to be working or in a training program in order to receive SNAP benefits. Is that something you are willing to support?
It's hard to say without looking at the text, because when we look at the circumstances and for this population who they're forcing these work requirements on, there are people who actually need the assistance, and it's just going to complicate and clog the system. This is not a real work requirement that you see present. This is just to slow down the process and to frustrate people. And like I said, we're still in a situation where we have inflation. We're still battling housing, homelessness. So I think we need to be more thoughtful of the American people we represent instead of playing these partisan politics games. And at the end of the day, we're only here because of the MAGA extremists. That's the only reason why we're having this conversation. All this money actually went through appropriations. We agreed. We passed bills already. So how do you come back and say, well, we don't want to pay that bill? I had a conversation with many of my constituents, and I explained to them what this is really like. This is like you getting a mortgage, saying you're going to pay $1,000 a month, and then you say, you know what, I don't want to do it anymore. I was just playing with you. I'm going to do $600. You cool? Well, I'm not giving you anything until you agree to $600. Absolutely not. The circumstances still actually are there, and they need to be honest and actually stick to what they committed to. This is absurd. We shouldn't be here in this situation where you have other members, Republican members, talking about they're not negotiating with their hostages. What are we coming to where we're allowing these extreme people to come in and do this to our country? We need to protect the American people, and that's what we have to remember in this negotiation.
So do you think the White House then should not have engaged in these negotiations with Speaker McCarthy and Republicans on the Hill?
I think they should have, because we need to make sure we're not actually going to have, we need to pay our bills, right? We can't allow ourselves to get to that point. But what does negotiation look like? That's why the text is so important. Who are we actually going to give up in this negotiation? And I think every American needs to be very clear. That's what they're asking for. Don't protect a vulnerable class, right? Make sure that this vulnerable class doesn't have access. That's what they're negotiating here. They're not negotiating anything that's not going to hurt the American people. If they said, okay, we're not going to give, cuts to wealthy businesses or something, that's another conversation. But when you actually put our most vulnerable on the table to cut their benefits that we promised to them, that's when we have a real problem that we have to actually step back and ask ourselves, what are we doing? And what are we really negotiating? Because that should never be the case.
I have two other questions about the debt limit negotiations, if you will. First, on veterans, you sit on the Veterans Affairs Committee. Do the concessions for veterans, do they ease, that we're hearing about, again, no one has seen any text, do those ease some of your concerns?
Yes. Once I heard what was going on with our veterans, especially with the PAC Act, that made me feel a little bit better about the situation, because that's a promise we can't default on, right? Our promise to our heroes, our veterans, we promised them, and they actually fulfilled everything that was asked of them. So that actually made me feel more comfortable. But what I'm hearing coming out from it, the uncertainty about SNAP and what's actually being protected, the uncertainty about student loans and when it's going to kick in, those are the things that really concern me. Because when we look at our students who are actually trying to come into the workforce, and we look at anyone who has a degree, you still can't afford housing. In Florida, we still have a housing crisis. The groceries are still very expensive. Inflation is still existent. So what has changed now that they want to change the circumstances to the deal that we all agreed to? This is just another way to actually go around the democratic process and now get your way. But we're seeing them use these tactics all across the board. I do think that we need to negotiate, but what are we negotiating exactly? What are they saying? Is it pretextual what they're saying? They want to make sure that, we're fiscally stable? Or are you really trying to get your way because you couldn't get that bill passed? What's really going on here? And I think we have to ask ourselves that. And as Americans, we need to ask ourselves that.
Are you dismayed that you are not being briefed until 5 p.m. today?
I am. I feel like we should have had more access and more information into the negotiation process, because we talk to our constituents every single day. We actually are on the ground, and we know what they're suffering. So I wish we had more input. But, I can't wait to hear what goes on at 5. And I believe we'll get the opportunity to actually give our input. But a lot of stuff that I'm hearing, I just feel as if the right story wasn't being put forth. They intentionally held out. They intentionally tried to hold us as hostages. And they're intentionally trying to hurt a certain class of American people, the most vulnerable. I think that needs to be said, and that's what we have to fight against.
All right, before I let you go, you are a congresswoman from one of the interesting states in America, Florida. Florida, a very special place, as I like to say. I want to talk specifically about Governor DeSantis, his order banning state funding for diversity and equity initiatives in colleges. What are your constituents telling you about this? This is a bill that has passed both chambers and the governor has now signed.
It's a fearful time to be in Florida. Right now, he seems to be fixating on different groups, especially African-American groups. And right now, the question and concern becomes, what's going to come from this, right? Implementation. We saw with the book ban this week how all the books were being scanned. And we saw huge containers of these books that were being scanned. Some of the books were actually more empathetic books. So we can't believe that this is where we're living now, where all these big books and big suitcases and bags are being put there. So when we look at what's going to be the implementation come this fall, if you look at the bill specifically, it talks about advocacy. So it's trying to block people from advocating, and you can't even advocate on either issue. And it's also banning people from actually talking about their life stories, right? It's an integral part of our history is African-American history. For years, African-American history has been intentionally wiped out. So this is another attempt of wiping out African-American history, but we have to be savvy enough to get through this time. One of the best things I think is happening is that the entire world gets to see what we've been suffering as Floridians. We've been dealing with this governor now for going into 5 years. And he seems to get more and more extreme. He seems to be targeting and fixating on the African-American community, LGBTQ. It seems like every week you hear another group that he's actually going against, immigrants. And he's actually pushing a proposition of hate and division. There's no hopeful story or narrative behind what he's saying, not a one. And if you look at what he's been doing, even in my district, in District 20, we were supposed to have the NHL come into our district and do a diversity inclusion.
National Hockey League.
Yes, National Hockey League was supposed to come in and do a job fair to create pipelines into the hockey league. Now, you know as well as I do, there are practically no minorities in the hockey league. And he blocked it.
It's slim.
Yeah.
It's slim.
So he blocked it. He blocked it from actually coming when they were creating a pipeline. This pipeline was specifically supposed to include women, minorities, and military people. So you have a problem now with military people also? So what is the real issue? What are you really driving at? The real issue is that he wants to make sure that we don't have a fairer seat at the table, that we don't have an opportunity to actually talk about where our country was and where we're going. And he's trying to make sure that he can advance himself and his position.
Oh, well, Congresswoman, it seems like you had something to say. All right now. Well, we are going to have you back to discuss. Obviously, Florida will continue to be in the news. I appreciate your time. Congresswoman Sheila Sherfulis, thank you very, very much. And, you know, you feel free to text me anything from that call.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'll be on standby. Appreciate your time.